Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Couple of Brain Cells. I'm Amelia.
And I'm Kyle.
And I realized I totally forgot to say this last episode, but this is a podcast all about the significant moments in pop culture and internet history and whatever the heck that I want to talk about that Kyle has missed and that I have been too chronically online for.
There's many things.
Many things. This week, though, Kyle and I are going full nerd. With it being Ren Fair season, I've been kind of like in a fantasy mood, which was only exacerbated by me going online and seeing that it has been 15 years since Game of Thrones premiered on TV. I said TB. TV.
On the TB, on the tube.
On the tuberculosis.
Oh.
Which is probably what many of these people had back in the day, except none of them are real. So today, we are going to be covering all things Game of Thrones, the TV show. We'll be talking about its historic place in television and culture, of course, its legendary fall from grace, and its potential rebirth. Warning, just for everybody, this episode will have spoilers. And although we will be mostly covering the main Game of Thrones television series, if you would like to remain unspoiled for the whole franchise, we will see you next week. Kyle, what do you know about Game of Thrones?
I know that there's a throne. I know that there's dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And there's those zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people don't like the last season. I know it's a very well-regarded series for its twists and turns along the way. And I know it's based on a book that was never finished, or a series of books that was never finished.
Okay, that's pretty good. I just realized that I actually didn't write down what Game of Thrones is during the script writing. I was just like nerding out, so I probably left some stuff out. But yeah, Game of Thrones, it's a gigantic series. It's a fantasy series. That's what I'll say right now. But there's a lot more that goes into it. Did you watch it when it was airing, or did you watch it with me?
I watched it with you well after it
was ended, right?
Was all completed. That's
what I was thinking of, but then I was also like, I couldn't remember when I was writing this. But who's your favorite character?
Not Robb Stark, but Robb Stark's wife.
Do you want to explain? You don't even know her name.
Nope. And I did not care to explain.
Oh my god. Kyle thinks she's hot.
I think if you've seen the series, the answer explains itself.
You're so annoying.
We will include a picture of her.
No, we won't. Well,
okay.
You can just Google her. Also, she's in the new Avatar movie. She's like the hot one. The hot, mean one.
Who's surprised?
Hot, mean Avatar lady.
Who's surprised?
I haven't seen the third Avatar movie, but... Well, I love Game of Thrones, and my favorite character, I have several.
You can't do that.
But, well, I have several favorites.
That's not how that works.
It is how that works for me. I know this bothers you.
It's not how the word favorite works.
I love Daenerys Targaryen. That's all I'll say. Okay. I'm a basic bitch in that aspect. But also
for the same reason.
But also, no, I do think she's beautiful. But also, I like her because she's the best. So.
Because she's the best.
Well. I think the world that George R. Martin has built in his writing is truly one of a kind. So we've seen the show, as many, many people have, but I don't think many people have heard of like what it took to get made or what may have actually been like the thing that led it toward its downfall. So we're going to talk about all of that today. The first A Song of Ice and Fire book, that's the name of like the whole big series, the whole big franchise, was published August 1st of 1996 and is titled A Game of Thrones. This series is older than both of us. How do you feel about that?
I'm not surprised. Many things are.
What? The world started when you were born.
That's how that works.
Well, the world actually started for me when I was born.
Interesting.
Just think about it.
No, thank you.
If you've been living under a bigger rock than the one Kyle has lived under, so maybe you were like underneath him, maybe in like a duplex type situation. The Song of Ice and Fire series is an epic fantasy that has it all. Multiple point of views with unreliable narrators, lots of drama, lots of bloodshed, and a massive world to immerse yourself into. It rocks. It's loosely based on the real life War of the Roses. Have you heard of this War of the Roses, Kyle?
No, I have not heard of the War of the Roses.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick history lesson then, because I always heard it was based off of War of the Roses, but I don't know European history that well, so I did some like Googling for this episode. So the War of the Roses was a series of civil wars between the houses of Lancaster and York. I'm laughing because Kyle just gave me the most like unamused face.
This is Lannister and Stark. Lancaster and York. Oh.
It was a battle between these houses for the English throne. Okay. It was called this as a reference to the badges of the houses, the red rose for Lancaster and the white rose of York. Does any of this sound familiar to you?
No, not at all.
No, it's definitely not.
Doesn't sound like the Lannisters and the red lions and the Starks and their white wolves.
Yes, not at all. So these books were written by a man named George R.R. Martin, who predominantly had actually written science fiction before this.
What does the RR stand for?
George R.R. Martin. What does the RR stand for? Raymond Richard. George is a major figure, obviously, as this is his baby, this series. He originally intended on the series being a trilogy, but to date we have 5 novels and allegedly 2 more on the way to wrap it all up.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of books. The books blew up when he released them. They regularly top bestsellers lists, and as of today, the books have sold 90 million copies and have been translated into 45 different languages. Naturally, Hollywood noticed this, and various film deals started to get pitched to George. Now, George had actually worked in TV, so being in that world, he was well aware of how authors are treated. Oftentimes, they sell the rights to their work away and then have little to no control over what a studio does with their text. He was also a little concerned about the size. No pun intended.
Of his books?
Of his books. What else?
No, I thought maybe like the size of like the franchise or like how much money it can be worth.
We could perceive that as like the books, yeah. So the comparison most often made to like his series is the other fantasy series that's very well known. What is it?
Harry Potter.
Wrong.
Oh, they're not considered fantasy?
Yeah, I think it is.
You said wrong, like I was like so far off the mark.
The fantasy series,
Rings.
Lord of the Rings. So in Lord of the Rings trilogy, when all thrown into one volume, there's a little over 1,000 pages in those 3 books. Those 1,000 pages resulted in 3 movies that are beloved, but they also had to change to fit the format a little bit. In the first 4 books of the Song of Ice and Fire series alone, there are, depending on the printing, around 4,000 pages to adapt. To make that into a film, significant cuts would have to be made, obviously. And George had said that there were a lot of offers focused on just one character because of that. This is a story about Jon Snow or Daenerys Targaryen, but A Game of Thrones doesn't really work like that. It's a true ensemble piece. To George, the thought of cutting so much of those other perspectives destroyed the narrative. Little did he know, 2 writers were having the exact same thoughts. So let's talk about David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Have you heard these names before?
Yes.
Just in relation to Game of Thrones?
Correct.
So Benioff and Weiss, they first met while they were attending Trinity College in Dublin, and the 2 had moderate success in the industry afterwards. Benioff had a bit more notoriety in Hollywood than Weiss. He had his first published novel, The 25th Hour, adapted for the screen, to which he wrote a screenplay for. He also wrote the 2004 film Troy and penned a first draft for X-Men Origins. Did you ever see that?
Absolutely not.
I did not see it either.
No.
I haven't seen any of those. But Weiss wrote a couple screenplays that didn't go through, but were adaptations of other things like the book Ender's Game, which I think did get turned into a movie eventually, but not by him. And the video game Halo.
Really?
Yeah, he attempted to write a screenplay for that.
Wasn't there a movie that came out?
Yeah, but I don't think it was the same project. Yeah. He worked on it with director Alex Garland, who's actually working on... You know him?
No.
He's working on the Elden Ring adaptation.
Gotcha. So all these...
Shout out to my brother.
These guys who are just making the video game movies. Just go from one to the next.
Nerds! So Benioff found the books first, and he read the first book, A Game of Thrones, and told Weiss to read it as well. And when Weiss got his hands on it, he finished it in 3 days. They became like completely obsessed.
Well, that was his job.
Yes.
I would also read it in 3 days if I was told to.
It wasn't his job. His friend just recommended it to him.
Because they knew what they were trying to do. I'm sure his friend told him, like, hey, there's something good here. We can do something with this. Read it. And then so
yeah,
he
but I
read
tell
it.
my friends to read books all the time.
Do you tell him because you want to read a movie together?
No.
Well.
Okay. Well, anyways, pretty immediately the two decided that they wanted to adapt it and that it would never work as a movie. It'd be way too messy and long and just wouldn't work out. Everything about it screamed TV to them, and even more so, it screamed HBO. I really cannot imagine another channel that this show would even work on. Do you think it could work on a different channel?
They could put it on Netflix and then just really... I mean, it is in the Netflix motto to throw away the last season of any series.
We'll talk about it. However, before they could write and pitch the show to HBO, they had one very important hurdle to jump. They had to convince George that they could be the ones to do it.
Mr. RR.
Yes, so they organized a meeting with George at a restaurant in Santa Monica.
Nice.
At this point, George was mostly used to rejecting offers. He had been saying no to deals for years. And it seems like Benioff and Weiss had an uphill battle on their hands, especially considering that they had zero showrunning experience. They just had writing experience. No producing, no actually what it takes to run a show, which is kind of a whole other beast. But Lunch with George lasts for 5 hours. In it, they laid out their plan for the series. Every season would be a single book, and they would work their asses off to make sure that this was a character story just as much as the book was. As George watched their passion pour out onto the table, he had one question. He asked them,
how much are you going to pay me?
No.
Oh.
He asked them, who is Jon Snow's mother? At this time, with the published novels, that was a question that didn't have an answer. There were a lot of fan theories, things on forums. However, if you dove into the text at the level that Benioff and Weiss did, just like that they did on that day in Santa Monica, you too would produce the correct answer, which is Kyle. Wow.
Jon Snow's mother? I thought he was born from like a dragon.
No.
Oh.
You need to rewatch the series.
It's been at least like 7 years.
It's Lyanna Stark.
That's not his mom.
Yes, yes, she is.
Yeah.
And then the Targaryen gets brought in.
Correct. That's right. I thought it was the other way around. I thought his mother was a Targaryen.
You're making me look more nerdy than you, which I don't appreciate.
Well, that's how you are with these things, and that's okay. There's no problem with being nerdy.
Thanks, babe. So here's what George had to say about picking them.
David Benioff and Dan Weiss are the showrunners. I don't have any veto power. I signed a pretty standard contract where I gave them rights to adapt this into a television series, and I got certain titles and the agreement I'd write one script a year and a large dump truck full of money. They can they can have the aliens come down next season. They can turn the whole cast into vampires. And I'm powerless to stop them, but I don't think they will do that. They love the books, and they seem committed to telling my story in a different medium.
So he had a lot of belief in them, I think.
So did he say he has to write one script per season, and then he gets a truckload of money?
Yeah. But that's the deal he signed, was he would write for like one episode per season. But he only wrote one episode per season until season 4.
Okay.
And then he bowed out to finish writing the books.
Allegedly.
So, Benioff and Weiss, they get it. And then they run off to pitch to HBO, to which a pilot episode is greenlit. And they're off to the races. What could go wrong?
Apparently getting that much money, I guess you want to take the time away from stuff so you can have time to spend it.
What do you mean?
Well, he said he needed more time.
Oh,
so he doesn't want to write a script, so that way he can write his books.
He is writing
books. But then
books.
He didn't write his books.
He's writing songs.
So what is he doing with all that time? Spending the money.
It kind of seems like the dream adaptation situation. author on board, people passionate about the text leading the way, and a nice big budget to start with. Weiss says the first pilot costs about $10 million to make, making it one of HBO's most expensive ever. Unfortunately, things don't really go to plan. They shoot the pilot and bring it back for a couple screenings. What?
Sounds like a plane crash waiting to happen.
Oh my god, here we go. One of those screenings was with our friend Craig Mazin. Does that name sound familiar to you at all?
Craig?
Craig Mazin.
No.
Okay. Craig is probably most well known today for being the co-writer, co-creator, and executive producer for the Last of Us series on HBO. He also worked on the limited series Chernobyl. Do you remember that?
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
Yes. But yes, I do know that one. That was a really good one.
Yeah, that one
really
that was really, really good. He has been an established writer for some time, though. Well, he watched the pilot, and after watching the whole thing, he wrote down just one note. What do you think it says?
Buy it.
What do you mean?
Run it. Run it.
Oh, like this is good?
Let's make 20 seasons of this.
Close. His one note said, massive problem.
Oh.
AKA, it was bad. And unfortunately, that sentiment was shared by the higher-ups at HBO as well. Pretty much everybody said, we cannot release whatever the heck this is right now. The big issue seemed to be confusion surrounding the relationships of the characters, which is really important to get right because, like I said, there's a lot of characters. It's a big ensemble piece. You kind of have to know where everybody fits. It seems like the first viewers, were kind of playing a game of siblings or dating, or in Game of Thrones' case, both. So after a few rough feedback sessions, Benioff and Benioff and Weiss make the decision to reshoot almost all of the pilot. Not a great first impression.
Did they recast everyone?
They did not. I will walk you through.
So these were all the same people?
Almost. I'm honestly kind of shocked HBO actually gave them another chance.
And another $10 million?
I think they ended up giving them like $12 million.
Wow.
Which, that means, they saw something, but how it was now just wasn't.
Well, yeah, you already built the sets, you already hired the people.
That's true. So here are some of the big changes that were made between the original pilot and then the one we see on screen. So, a few of the cast members are changed. An integral one being Daenerys Targaryen was completely recast. The character was originally played by Tamsin Merchant. Tamsin has said that she was uncomfortable with filming her wedding scene, which if you've seen the pilot, you know what I'm talking about. She also allegedly didn't have any chemistry with Jason Momoa, who plays Khal Drogo, who Daenerys Targaryen gets married to. Tamsin has come out and said that she thinks Amelia Clarke, who replaced her, was the best decision for Daenerys Targaryen, which I agree. There were also some really fun cameos that unfortunately had to be cut out. One of them was of George, and he's in this crazy outfit. I think it's supposed to be like a merchant of some sort.
What on earth did they dress this poor old man up in?
No, it's iconic though.
Send him to the Met Gala.
I'm gonna put it on the Instagram. It's super cute, but they had to cut it out, unfortunately. Also, a German band called Corvus Coraz were cast as performers at like the big welcome feast when the king comes to Winterfell, and they had to be cut as well, sadly. But that would have been fun to have like a real life band there, which that is something they kept. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't have this in the script, but was it in the last season or second to last one? When does Ed Sheeran show up? Do you remember?
I think he was in the second to last one.
I think you're right. But Ed Sheeran's there singing around a campfire. That was funny.
I thought it was very interesting just to see him there because it was like, what are you doing here?
Literally, why is Ed Sheeran here? Other scenes were removed as well, like an opening scene of Jon Arryn, who we only see as like a dead person. After being poisoned, it shows him like trying to write a letter of warning while dying, and then Cersei's there watching him die. Also a scene of a White Walker speaking, and also flashbacks of Rickard and Brandon Stark's executions. But other scenes were added in, like an actual introduction of all the Stark children, which there are quite a few, so that's nice. The scene of all the Stark boys getting ready for the feast where they all have their shirts off was also added in. Benioff and Weiss have said they hate this scene, but they added it due to feedback about the imbalance of nudity between the men and women in the show, which I think is interesting because this feedback does come back many times throughout the series, but it was interesting to know it's been there from the start. This pilot went over a lot better and premiered in April 17th of 2011. How do you think it was received by the public, Kyle?
I just remember a lot of people always talking about this series.
Yeah, it blew the fuck up.
Everyone was always going on about Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. People who were probably not of age to be watching it.
Me.
Talking about it the most, but who am I to say? It's more of a suggestion, anyways.
Yeah. It became an absolute cultural phenomenon, and it runs for 8 seasons. It also became an Emmys juggernaut. Like, everyone should have been shaking in their boots.
Wasn't it coming out, like, every year, too?
Yeah, it was, like, pretty consistent. I think the last couple seasons, there was, like, 2 years between or something, or it was, like, a little bit longer. But they ended their run with 59 Emmy Awards, specifically 4 for Outstanding Drama Series. Also, Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion Lannister, becomes an absolute standout. And he won 4 Supporting Actors Awards, but he was nominated for every single season. So he won 50% of his nominations, which is really good.
That's a lot.
I know, I'd be pissed as hell if I were trying to get nominated and I saw Peter Dinklage pop up in the nominations. Be like, fuck, there goes my Emmy. It also, and this can tell you how popular it was, became the most pirated show between 2012 and 2019. Viewership on HBO itself was phenomenal, with the first season ranking in about 2.5 million viewers per episode, and the average jumping to 32.9 million by season 7.
So, a lot of people.
Like you said, everybody was watching it.
Are they counting multiple people on one couch?
No, it goes by accounts.
Yeah, so then it might be, viewers might be closer to like 70 million.
And that's just on HBO,
million.
but it's not all the pirating.
Sure. That's harder to track. So it might,
that's a lot
100
of people.
million people watching the show.
That's a lot of people. With the show increasing in viewership, that means budget increases as well, of course. The average budget per episode was around 8 million, but it bumped up to 10 million in the 6th season, and then the final season was receiving a budget of 15 million per episode. Because there's a lot of big battles and stuff.
Per episode. Like 8 episodes.
Well, the last season only had 6.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's like $100 million per season.
Yeah, it's expensive to make this show. Because think of like all the clothes, all the sets. They travel a lot too, like
well,
paying everyone.
I can't really think of it because I've never known what it's like to produce this sort of content before.
It's crazy.
So I don't know what it costs.
I'm going to show you a clip from a video. Well, I used to watch a series of videos all the time when the show was on. There's a bar in Chicago called the Burlington Bar, and they would host watch parties for the show and then film and upload the reactions from inside the bar to their YouTube channel. I feel like these clips really show like how many people were watching this show itself and also how it brought people together. So this clip, I'm going to again upload it to our Instagram, of course, but this is them watching a clip from, I believe, season 6. The screams of horror.
The crowd is exactly as I expected to see going to the bar to watch Game of Thrones.
And I mean that lovingly, like, we'll be there as well.
I do. They look like good people.
Yes. However, the show was not immune to controversy, even though people loved it. One that was definitely out there, one big topic, but I feel like most people kind of just waved this one off, was the level of violence. This is not a show you want to watch if you're squeamish. There are eyes getting popped.
I didn't think there was that much violence in it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
But I feel like also you and I have seen a lot of violence through our media. We're a little desensitized. I think you and I are desensitized a little bit.
I thought for like how much there would be for a show really about like war and political conflict and all that stuff, you'd see more like all out war and battle. Maybe more like Lord of the Rings which isn't really gory, but there's a lot of
There's a lot of fighting. Yeah.
and maybe that's what they're in reference to, that this is more gory.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's more
Yeah.
gory, that you're getting all the good VFX and stuff like that.
Yeah, like people are just like, oh, like that's like unnecessary violent, like extra. But some people aren't that mad watching.
Are they
like,
talking about specific parts?
The one that comes to mind all the time is Pedro Pascal getting his eyes smashed.
I don't know. I feel like a guy like the Mountain, when
He
you're like
would
8
smash
foot,
eyes.
I feel like he would just smash heads like that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I would imagine
We
large person would do.
look at the violence within the context of all that which came before it.
Oh my gosh.
But I feel like the larger conversation, and the one I also agree with, is the level of nudity and sexual violence. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of boobs. I should have done a boob counter. I should have just rewatched the whole series for fun and done a boob counter. But also just full frontal, specifically of women, which, if we remember, was called out in the initial pilot. There is also a lot of sexual violence, like multiple sexual assault scenes. This is very prevalent in the books as well. Unfortunately, and again, I like this series. I think there is a trope when it comes to writing female characters where a lot of people feel like they have to justify women's strength by making them experience something horrible. And I don't think you need to do that.
You know, you making that comment alone really, I instantly reflected on like some of the main female characters. I'm like, oh wow, each one had that exact scenario.
I'm telling you, yes, like it happens all the time. Do we need to show it? I don't necessarily think so. I think it was obvious that Daenerys Targaryen didn't want to marry Khal Drogo without watching him do that to her. There's also like weird arguments that get brought up where the people are like, well, in the book it was consensual, and it's not, because she's underage in the book. Like, let's just not even get into all that. But there was also like added in ones. And yeah, I just don't think it needs to be like shown in the graphic detail it was.
What I do think is interesting, even with all those scenes, is clearly her heartbreak with his passing.
Yeah. Well, she does grow to love him. Not in that moment, though.
No.
Just something that got brought up a lot throughout the run, which I feel like HBO may have a similar mindset to what I'm saying, because in the spin-off shows we've been seeing lately, there is less of that. It has been toned down.
Sure, it's not in The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but in
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon has it too.
Yeah.
It does have those situations too.
Yeah, but it has been toned down, I think. There's a lot.
It's also a lot shorter of content.
This is true.
You don't have 7 seasons worth of content.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. How exciting. I can't wait for sexual violence on my HBO.
That's what it's known for. That's why it
doesn't
fit on
have
HBO.
to be, guys. You can just be known for how well your shows do. Anyways.
But why does it perform well even with that taking place?
Because I like everything else that's not about that. But something, I just want to mention it because it still is kind of a big talking point.
It is a big topic.
Yeah. But people still tuned in, like you said, and tuned in a lot. I want to actually read you the Rotten Tomato scores for the seasons. So season 1, 90%. Seasons 2 through 4, 97%. Season 5, 93%. Season 6, 94%. Season 7, 93%.
Drum roll.
Season 8, 55%.
Yeah, there it is.
One of these things is not like the other. I mean, if you talk to anyone about the show today, a lot of people recommend it with like a warning.
Everyone will make a comment in some capacity about the last season. Either
Yeah.
to skip it or it's not good.
Just be prepared.
But it always gets addressed.
It does. You can't not. Especially because even though a lot of people like have not watched the show, people have heard that the last season was bad.
I've heard people say they've never seen it and they don't intend to because they can't watch it all.
Yeah.
Because people have told them not to.
Yeah. So what the heck happened? Why is one of the most popular, like, well-beloved shows ever left with this reputation? I think there's like a perfect storm of things that happened, and actually the start of a pattern that we've been seeing a lot lately. The easiest thing to point to is a lack of content to pull from. If you remember, I said Benioff and Weiss planned for each season to pull from a corresponding novel. Well, right now, there are 5 books, and there are 8 seasons of the show. So, unfortunately, they ran out
Where
of
do
books.
they get 6 and 7 from?
6, 7, 6, 7.
I'd cut that out. Jesus.
Well, they knew as they were getting further into the series that they were going to run out of books. Like, they just were not being published. A lot. What? You said you would cut out me doing 6, 7, and you're sitting here laughing about it.
I'm just dumbfounded from you doing that.
6, 7.
You gotta restart your...
I'll restart, okay. And I won't cut it out. They knew as soon as they got further into the series that they would run out of books. It became pretty obvious that they just weren't going to be published in time. Particularly in season 5, there are a lot of significant changes from the original book, likely to prepare for the inevitable situation of having to write from scratch. And I'm by no means saying that they don't know how to write. That's not what I'm saying. However, it's one thing to adapt something from existing source material that you've read and you know the main story beats, you know what's coming, what you have to set up. It's another to use previous storylines and try to figure out where they're going to end up. Also, Benioff and Weiss were getting new jobs. In 2017, it was announced that Benioff and Weiss would begin production on a new HBO show once Game of Thrones ended. The new show would be titled Confederate and would be set in a timeline where the American Civil War ended in a stalemate and slavery is still legal. Do you think this is a good idea for television?
I would have watched it because I think it reminds me of
Man in the High Castle.
The Man in the High Castle, which I thought was a really good series, except for the ending was also botched. But I think I would have watched it under the same premise.
I've never seen that show.
Yeah,
I've
you're
heard good
missing
things.
out. I've told you, you're missing out.
I know. Yeah, I don't think we don't need to know what would happen if slavery was legal. Like, I think we're good. Well, that was kind of like my take is kind of the loud take where it was like, I don't really want to see that. The production was officially stopped in 2020 for this show, so it is not getting made.
So they spent 3 years on it for it to go nowhere.
So they were going to start production on it in 2019, like working on it when Game of Thrones ended. And then it just, ended up doing
I wonder
nowhere.
how you get paid for that. Imagine just like going to work, getting paid, and producing nothing. It's crazy.
In 2018, it was also announced that Benioff and Weiss would write and produce a series of new Star Wars movies.
Ooh.
They did end up pulling out of this deal, but they have said that they were planning on initially doing like an origin story of the Jedi. So I feel like their minds were probably elsewhere because 2017, 2018 is when they're making these final seasons of Game of Thrones at the same time.
Is that why there were Ewoks in Game of Thrones?
What?
Kidding.
I was like, what do you know that I don't? I think their minds were elsewhere when maybe they should have been at home with Papa, and by that I mean home with Daenerys Targaryen and giving her a good ending. I think her character is where we see how rushed the final seasons were. Daenerys spent 7 seasons protecting innocents and breaking chains, emphasizing that the people didn't always share the same views and evils that their rulers did. But in the penultimate episode of the series, she finally gets to King's Landing, where she's been working to get to for 7 seasons, and just kills as many people as possible that live there.
Yeah.
All for her just to die in the next episode. Mm-hmm. Some people have tried to defend this and say, oh, there was foreshadowing, because there's this really famous line that goes, this is like a quote that I've chopped up a little bit just so I can read it to you, but madness and greatness are 2 sides of the same coin. Every time a new Targaryen is born, the gods toss the coin in the air, and the world holds its breath to see how it will land.
Mm-hmm.
Other than this, it seems like the coin landed on the side of greatness with Dany until this moment. So what the fuck? And things went similarly for other characters. I'm actually going to show you some clips of the actors at their final table read. I chopped it up a little bit just to make it easier for us to watch, but they were sharing a similar sentiment that I think a lot of viewers felt.
Make this real. We see John with his hand still on the hilt of the dagger he just lodged in Danny's heart. He looks down at what he's done, terrible and necessary.
Terrible and necessary.
Terrible is.
I think it's funny because it's the writer saying like no, it's necessary, guys. Like they're validating why they would write it this way.
Don't put me in this room. I would have flipped the fuck
Don't
out.
put any of those people in this room. The only reason they're still in there is because they're getting paid. Look, you know what? When they cash that check, I'm sure none of them were crying.
Okay, T.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a job. But
Well,
I get it. You get attached to your work and you get attached
And
to
they've
your
been doing
character.
it for so long, and it's like, oh.
But when you get paid millions of dollars, it makes it easier. There's a lot of people who get attached to their work and they make chump change.
It all just felt rushed. It took on more of a Phase 5 of Marvel Cinematic Universe tone, and I do mean that in a derogatory way, rather than a more prestige TV tone that it began with.
It's Phase 5 of the phase we're in right now.
Yes, I actually think we're in
Okay.
Phase 6 technically right now.
Okay.
But that in between. The final season was also less episodes. Seasons 1 through 6 got 10 episodes. Season 7 had 7, and then Season 8 had 6. So having to wrap it up in less episodes, I don't know. There were also quality control issues. In the final season, you can see a modern coffee cup sitting on the table at a grand feast in episode 4, and a plastic water bottle on the floor in the council where the next king is going to be chosen in the finale.
Look, if they would have been focused on oil, so that way they could produce plastics, the series would have been way different.
Like in the Game of Thrones world?
Yeah, correct. Like, because, plastics made from
Oh.
oil, and, oil is
There's-
the common commodity
There's
nowadays.
the coffee cup. This is a still from the show.
This is the coffee cup.
This is not a behind the scenes photo.
Look, if Danny wants her mocha latte, she can have it. She's the queen.
There's the water bottle.
You can barely see that. People, mind you,
Because whole house mad. Whole house
over
mad. We're like,
99% of people watching this would never have noticed those if it wasn't for the people who go through this and try to pick it apart.
like me.
Correct.
I'm mad.
Which I don't think you noticed it until someone posted online and told you about it, and then you noticed it.
You don't have to read me like that. When the show finally ended, there was, as you can tell by how I've been speaking, genuine anger and disappointment among fans. It felt like a betrayal, and it seems like this franchise is still kind of trying to recover from this. Benioff and Weiss haven't said much about the reaction to the finale, but in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Benioff did say this. You always hope everyone's going to love anything you do, and it would have been great if 100% of people loved it, but they didn't. Well,
Yeah. Well, that's just the way the wind blows.
well. Benioff and Weiss have been working at Netflix, and in 2024 created the TV series Three Body Problem alongside Alexander Wu. It's also a book adaptation, and it's received okay reviews.
Which is a huge improvement over the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yes, but the franchise has continued to go on without them. So the spin-off, titled House of the Dragon, premiered in 2022. This is based off the book Fire and Blood, in which the story of the rise and fall of House Targaryen is told in almost textbook-like fashion. It received a mixed reception. It does utilize the freedom it has a little bit more, coming from like a textbook rather than like a direct. There's room to kind of say whatever, which some viewers enjoy that, others not so much. It also has released 2 seasons in the 5 years it's been on the air. I feel like having to wait that long does not help when you release a season that disappoints a lot of people. I feel like it disappoints them even more.
There's other series out there that are okay to wait because you're like, wow, this is good. Apple TV Severance. You gotta wait, but it's gonna be good when it comes out.
And I'll wait. I'm sitting and I'm waiting.
I'll wait, kicking and screaming, but I will wait.
It also doesn't help that George, remember George, the writer?
Oh, George,
the creator?
RR.
George R.R. Has described his relationship with the showrunner of House of the Dragon, Ryan Condal, as, quote, abysmal.
All right.
Do you like House of the Dragon?
I do. I'm getting a look right now that says I might as well put a gun to my head. But yes.
Huh? I like House of the Dragon.
No, if I said no.
Oh.
Correct. See that? Yeah. I think it's good. In the name, it's House of the Dragon. There's many dragons. And I think they steal the show, and I wish they would put more in it. but they clearly do not have the VFX budget for it.
I like House of the Dragon. I understand the criticisms, though. Like, I don't think... Season 2 was not better than Season 1, and I'm scared of Season 3.
Well, we'll see.
Vermitor Lakiri.
I don't even gotta call you a nerd.
Oh,
Doing it yourself.
Look, Kyle, I said that and Bilby's climbing up on me because she's a dragon.
She does not understand High Valyrian. But her breath definitely has the heat of dragon's breath and smells like one too.
You want to say anything, Bilby? Another spin-off premiered in 2026 called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's based on the novellas of the same name and follows Sir Duncan the Tall and his squire Egg as they adventure around Westeros.
Such a rude name. I thought it was Egg because of his head.
It is. Don't spoil it.
We just said there were spoilers for everything.
This was received very well. People loved this show. I included. And Kyle included.
Yeah, it was a good show.
This adaptation does not stray far at all from the original source material. Literally takes a lot of lines just straight out of it. The next season is filming as we speak, and it'll be out next year. It's a very quick turnaround. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, I don't imagine there's a lot of after effects that has to go into it.
Also, George has said he loves what he's seen so far. So he's like fully on board.
It's true to the
same thing.
The content he made.
I know we already said that we like it, but do you love what you've seen so far?
From everything or
Knight
what?
of Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, I really like it. I just love the trope of smart kid getting pissed by dumb man that he's squiring for, because it's like how can you be so dumb? But at least he's a good man.
Good job, Sir Duncan.
He's a good man. Sir Duncan's a good man. So that's why I think he's okay with it.
Yeah, it rocks. That's like the show, like, if people are like, I don't like Game of Thrones, and there's too much talking, like, you need to watch, like, A Knight of Seven Kingdoms. In addition to the spin-offs, the franchise will also be adding movies the next couple years.
That's where the money is.
The money's everywhere. But I'm sure they will have many other things in the pipeline as well. It seems like they are eager to move ahead with this franchise. So, do you think that the franchise can recover from the stain of the finale? Do you think they can outgrow it?
Absolutely, because they're making content away from it, right? If you try to make a season 9 to the original Game of Thrones, you don't recover the series.
Yeah.
You can recover the franchise by writing other series. Absolutely.
But do you think there's like an inherent fear that the fan base might have about ending any of these?
No, I don't think so. Because let's say if they didn't even make another Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, finish fine. Like, you don't need another season. They could make another one and it could be bad, and then you just treat it as a one season show. It's like the Marvel audience, or worse, the Star Wars audience. That no one hates Star Wars more than a Star Wars fan.
Don't say this about Game of Thrones, though. Because
I think Game of Thrones fans are the first to rally and call it so bad, especially for season 7.
Season 7?
8? Is it 8?
Oh, 8.
Is it 9?
The finale?
Yeah, whatever finale season. Season 8 is so bad. You'll hear it first from Game of Thrones fans. So the Game of Thrones fans will also be the first ones to watch every other series that comes out.
I mean, this is true. I'm not going to stop watching it just because I was mad.
Yeah, I don't think they've lost their followers at all because of that season. Other people who really hate that season that I've heard of really enjoy The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Mm-hmm. I think that medieval fantasy has just a good following or good fans. Mm-hmm. Usually people who started with Lord of the Rings, even though there's no real fantasy in the sense of there's no orcs, there's no
Lord of the Rings?
Goblins.
In Game of Thrones.
In Game of Thrones. But in Seven Kingdoms, there's not.
That's true. It's just a knight and his egg.
A knight and his egg. And I think they appeal to the other fun parts where you have a joust, you have little adventures, moral conflicts.
Oh, same thing.
That all go with it, which I think is interesting.
I agree. I think we're in good hands, hopefully, from here on out. And I do have hope for House of the Dragon season 3 coming out next month. I have hope.
Oh yeah, it's already here.
Me biting my nails. Anyways, I mentioned this earlier, but I do think there is a pattern or maybe a curse that was brought on by this finale, because we are currently just seeing back-to-back finale flops. In December 2025, Stranger Things, very famous show on Netflix, ended with just god-awful finale. Awful. And the creators, the Duffer Brothers, signed a deal with Paramount right before that came out to begin developing new shows and movies for them, so leaving Netflix. Euphoria is currently airing and is likely to make this season its final season. 4 years after its previous one, all of its stars have absolutely blown up and are off to do bigger and better things. We haven't seen the finale yet, but if the season itself is any indicator, it seems like it won't be great. I'm sure in due time we will likely have a longer discussion on this show about that show. And right now, as we are recording this, a show Kyle and I used to really love is about to end. It's called The Boys on Amazon. Its finale is set to air in like 5 days that we're recording this. Its showrunner, Eric Kripke. Kripke?
Actually, the finale is going to air when this episode comes out.
Yes, it'll be out. And you guys can like just send your thoughts and prayers to us, but has expressed his excitement over the incoming spin-off Vought Rising, aka the Nobody Cares show.
They could have got people to care, but because they used this last season of The Boys to be the entire pilot for Vought Rising,
Snoozeville.
They, I think, really burned their fans.
Yes. Which Eric Kripke is known to do this.
Oh, what else to do it with?
Supernatural. We'll probably talk about that too. I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see if this is a problem that remains, if this is just a curse for finales, or if somehow this curse can be broken and we can all be free and smile. Any final thoughts?
I don't have any major thoughts. I think it's very unfortunate to build a fan base over what a lot of these showrunners or writers will call a passion project during the development and creation of these things. And then as soon as they get their next gig, they no longer care. And I'm surprised that anybody who would hire them for something else doesn't look at this track record, that they will ultimately throw your investment in the trash when it gets to the end.
I think this is like a common thing. I hear about it a lot with people online that struggle with when the passion becomes a job.
And maybe maybe it's intentional
To get out of it.
to make the last one so bad.
I think in a lot of these situations, it's been an eagerness to wrap it up so they can move on. Not necessarily make it bad on purpose, but just like get it done.
No, I wonder if it is bad on purpose, because do people talk about stuff more when it's good or more when it's bad?
I think if something has a great finale, think about, we're watching Breaking Bad right now.
Right, but I don't talk about how great the finale is for Breaking Bad nowadays.
But I talk about how great the show is, and I don't give a disclaimer being like, but don't watch the last episode.
If someone asked me today, regardless of us watching it now, how would you recommend Breaking Bad? I'd be like, yeah, it's a really good show. If someone asked me, would you recommend Game of Thrones? I'd be like, yeah, it's a really good show, but like they really screwed over these and these characters, and the finale really just didn't do it right by such and such and such. I have a lot more to talk about because of how bad it is. And you could say the same thing about Stranger Things. Be like, yeah, it's a good series, but the finale really was weird, and you know, so-and-so is this vinyl and so-and-so is this vinyl, and they do that skit probably 20 times throughout the last season.
Matt. This is Will. This...
Yes. And it's like, maybe there's a point, because it's in the age of rage baiting online. Is it the same approach with all these bad final seasons? Because I like to think, and maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but these multi-billion-dollar companies likely have whole rooms of people researching how to get the best engagement, that are paid a lot more. They're probably a lot smarter than I am. And maybe they're onto something by making these final seasons be so bad, because it gets the most engagement and people talking about these and probably watching it too to understand why it's bad.
That's an interesting perspective, babe. You always have interesting perspectives.
Oh,
I haven't thought of that like at all.
Oh, thank you.
And if that's true,
I may not be
I'm
around.
pissed as
I may
hell.
not be around. They might send
I'm
someone
pissed
after
as
me.
hell.
I might end up in a fatal car crash. You know, they might send a
Okay,
hitman
not
after me.
that extreme. So,
You don't think these billion-dollar companies would send a hitman if I figured it out?
Kyle, be quiet. I'm scared now. Okay.
Post it. We gotta
My
post
final
this.
thoughts. I love Game of Thrones.
Yes,
Okay.
it's lovely.
This week we're starting a new segment to end our shows on a lighter note every week. Kyle, what was your favorite thing you saw in pop culture or media or whatever that you saw this week?
So we were talking about this before. We sat down.
Oh yeah,
Amelia
I meant to
advised
clarify
me
it with you because I didn't know what you were talking about.
to have me talk about some of the favorite things, or one of the favorite thing I saw this week. And Siri speech to text does not work very well when driving, and I was asking if I'm allowed to talk about. It's a meme I saw,
Yes, you can talk
Does that
about a
count?
meme.
but it's not really like a meme, like a picture meme. It was like just a video reel on
Okay,
Instagram.
tell me.
And I had this roundabout way of talking about these things. It was the meme out there is when usually a girl will film their boyfriend or their fiance or husband at the like game store and say like, I can't rush him, this is his Sephora, or
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
his bookstore or whatever. And I saw pretty much the anti reel to that, which was a guy filming his girlfriend, fiance, wife at like a Barnes and Noble and saying this is her Warhammer store. And it was just funny because no one has written them from that perspective.
And that's funny because it's our life.
Because it's funny just to see it as the opposite. So that's what I saw. It made me laugh. I think you got a good chuckle.
That's a
out
good
of me.
one. My favorite thing I saw this week was I mentioned we've been watching Breaking Bad, and at one point we're rewatching. We've seen it before, but we were watching an episode, and I was just watching Bryan Cranston act, and I was almost brought to tears. He wasn't doing anything in particular, no big monologue or anything, but I was just like, wow, that's acting. That was my
That
favorite
is
thing I
acting.
saw. Almost brought to tears. So
He knows what he's doing.
thank you guys for listening another week. Like I said, all of this will be on the at A Couple of Brain Cells Instagram.
Another week's in the books.
Another week in the books. Make sure you leave us ratings, comments. We appreciate them all. We're very grateful for you guys.
Make sure to follow.
Tell your friends and families.
Subscribe
Follow, subscribe.
on Spotify or on Amazon or on Apple, wherever you listen to us. Make sure to
Yes.
follow and stay up to date so you can get notified when we post.
Yes. But that's all from us. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.